Shaking you guys. So I know it's been a while since I did a video. My apologies. I'm gonna start trying to do them more often again. I changed the name of the channel, just kind of revamping everything, trying to get inspired to do more anyway, because I like doing this. That being said, I'm gonna review Godzilla from 2014. I previously seen this, but it was like a cam version. My buddy took it over. We watched it on his PlayStation like a couple years ago, and I just didn't enjoy it because of the quality, and therefore made me not like the movie. And this time watching it, I liked it way more. I'm just gonna say that now. But for the most part, well, for the first part of this, I'm not gonna do any spoilers. Then I'll kind of dive in and talk about some things. But yeah, this movie was directed by Gareth Edwards. Don't really know him. He went on to direct Rogue One, which was an okay movie, I guess. He did Monsters, which I actually own, but I've never got around to watching. I just seen it at the store one time, figured I might like it. Never got to watch it, though. And he did a movie called End Day, which I've never heard of, to be honest. He did a pretty good job. There's some elements of the movie that I think could have been done better, but to point all the blame to just him, I don't know, but for the most part, it was awesome, especially compared to the last Godzilla movie. Like, I've been a fan of Godzilla since I was a kid. I don't know the lore like everyone else does, and I mainly grew up on that 1998 movie, which I loved at the time. Kind of stupid now when you go back and watch it. I also watched the cartoon based off that movie, and yeah, I've seen some of the older stuff, but not as much as some people. Like, I don't really know the lore a whole lot. But it's starring Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad, who does phenomenal in this movie. He's probably the best actor in this movie, the best acting in the movie. I loved every scene with him. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who plays Quicksilver in the MCU, he's basically the main character. You're kind of watching the whole movie from his point of view, which he does a good job. He's kind of like your basic military type guy, but he does a pretty good job, I guess. We got Elizabeth Olsen, who plays Scarlet Witch in the MCU, and ironically enough, they're brother and sister in that, and they're a couple in this. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of not, because it's a movie, right? Whatever. But Ken Watanabe's in it, Sally Hawkins, and there's many more actors and actresses in this. Those are just the kind of top tiers. But yeah, the acting is great in the movie. I didn't really have much of a problem with it, aside from Ford, or Aaron Taylor's character, Ford. He just seemed kind of bland, but most military men are kind of that way, so it's like, I won't really rag on it too bad. The score for the movie was unreal. Like, anytime something sketchy or dark's happening, just the soundtrack just grips you. It's so epic. I love it. It might be my favorite part of the movie, aside from the CG, is just the score. It just sounds crazy. Probably one of the reasons why I rated it what I rated it. But yeah, the story's awesome with a few hiccups. You don't get as much Godzilla as you would hope. Towards the end you do, mind you, but I don't know, it just feels like there could have been more Godzilla, but what you get is, like, it's phenomenal. What you see of it, it looks awesome, especially compared to the last Godzilla we had. This one just looks amazing. I can't wait for the sequel. I noticed that they actually take from the 1998 Godzilla a bit with certain elements. I won't really talk about that yet because this is spoiler free, but they do it way better, mind you. Like, there's two particular parts that they kind of copy, but they just do it so much better. The cinematography in this movie has some beautiful, amazing shots, especially of Godzilla. There's some elements, though, that really, really drove me nuts as a viewer, and they're cutaways. Like, something crazy is about to happen, it just cuts away, and you're just left to use your imagination. But I don't want to. I want to see this happen, you know what I mean? Like, they do that a couple times in this movie, and that's part of the reason why I didn't really like it. And the story itself actually is kind of too coincidental for me. But yeah, overall I give the movie a 7.5 out of 10. Just the cutaways and the lack of Godzilla for a Godzilla movie, which it makes sense for the movie, but they could have named it differently. I don't know. But yeah, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I loved it. And like, if they had to put more Godzilla in it, maybe taken away these two in particular cutaways, I would have rated it higher. And if a certain character had stayed in the movie a bit longer, I would have liked it. And the story, there's elements of the story they could have touched up a bit to make it better. But overall, I enjoyed it. I'll watch it again, and I can't wait for the sequel. But that being said, I'll dive into spoilers. So I kind of got it on my iPad here, so I'll kind of be going back and forth. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. So anyway, the year's 1999, Japan, the power plant, like a nuclear power plant, just collapses, and then 15 years later, basically this Muto comes out of the ground and out of this cocoon, an egg or whatever. I'm not really sure. It looked more like a cocoon than an egg, because later on, you kind of like another one of them has a bunch of eggs, which I was talking about. They kind of steal from Godzilla, but do it way better. But yeah, it eats radiation, and I love this scene when it's coming out and it's taking all the cranes out, and they're all getting knocked down, and then it smashes the ground and just knocks the electricity out everywhere, or for like a couple miles, I should say. I shouldn't say everywhere, but they say it was the power of a 6.3 earthquake, and like I don't know much about it, but I think that is just nuts, and like I want to see more monsters in future films. I don't really know what use that power would have been back in like this like dinosaur ages or whenever they're from. Like that wouldn't really be of any help, I wouldn't say. But yeah, the thing gets out and escapes, and they wind up in Hawaii, and it's eating like nuclear missiles or something, and then yeah, the water in the ocean just there's a bunch of people on the shore, and the water in the ocean just kind of get leaves, and it looks so nuts. You're like, you as a viewer know what's happening, but you're seeing it from their point of view, and you're like, what's going on here? And the water's just draining, and then the tsunami comes in, just goes through the city, just wrecking people, vehicles, buildings. It's nuts. And then Godzilla kind of steps out of the water. Oh, I love that shot when you first see Godzilla, just him stepping, and it pans up, and I think he just screeches at the Muto or whatever. But yeah, they get ready to fight her, and then it just cuts away, and you see it from like a TV screen. Some kid just chilling there watching on TV. It's like that would have been real nice to see. Like real nice. You built up Godzilla this whole like the whole plot of the movie so far, and just you cut away like that. That really irritated me. And then by about this time, you also got Bryan Cranston's character had died, and he was the best character so far in the movie. And I thought I would have rather see him than Aaron Taylor Johnson personally, or maybe him and Aaron Taylor having a son and father kind of. I don't know. I didn't like how they played it out with this random little boy and Aaron Taylor. I think Bryan Cranston could have just held the movie on his own and carried it so much longer and better, and I probably would have liked it a little more just because of his acting. He's just so good. But yeah, they wind up. This is all 2014 now, by the way, 15 years later after the power plants collapsed. But they wind up in San Francisco, like all the monsters. Another monster comes out and just destroys Las Vegas, which is the female, I believe. Yeah, the male is the flying one. So anyway, they meet up in San Francisco. Like all three of the monsters wind up being there, and this is probably the best part in the whole movie. Like this, I love the tail end of this movie. It's just so awesome, so nuts. Godzilla, the special effects, all of it. I love it. But yeah, the fight finally resolves itself after the Muto has put quite the beating on Godzilla. And I'm sorry, I don't really know the proper name for those bug, like they're calling them animals, but they look more like a bug to me. But they're really whipping Godzilla's butt here for a bit. And then out of nowhere, his spikes just start glowing blue, and I believe he breathes fire or misses or something. And then one of the Mutos flies towards him, and he just whips around with his tail and just destroys the Muto against the building. I love that. I actually rewound that and watched it again. I was like, what? That's nuts. And then the female Muto, which just planted a bunch of eggs, which is kind of like the Godzilla. At one point, one of them actually has a vehicle in its mouth, and that's another thing I thought they kind of took from Godzilla, but made it way more intense and better. But yeah, the female is heading towards Aaron Taylor's character, who has a nuke, who's trying to get the nuke out of the city so it doesn't blow the city up, I think, and to kind of lower the monster out into the ocean. Anyway, right when you think the monster's about to get him and the nuke, it kind of stops and gets pulled away, and Godzilla has it and just rips its mouth open and breathes, like you hear the thing vamp up, and you just friggin' breathes the blue fire down its neck into its body, and its neck just burns off. It's so friggin' crazy, like so epic. I love that part. And then Godzilla just kind of walks a couple steps and passes out and lays there for a couple hours or days. I don't really know. But then he just opens his eyes up, gets up, and just lets out this screech like, who's next? And then just goes in the ocean and leaves, and no one really bats an eyelash at him because he just kind of saved the day. He's not bothering anyone. But yeah, I'm super excited for the next movie. I hope it's more monster related than human related. I get you got to see it from the human side to make it a movie, because not everyone wants to go see monsters bashing each other. So I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Some people might give it a 5 out of 10 because this isn't their kind of movie, but I love this. And if they had just did a couple things a little better, a little differently, I would have loved it way more. And the cutaways, the cutaways themselves just kill it for me. It happened, I forget the other scene, but one of the scenes was the first time you see Godzilla and it cuts away. It's like, come on, man. Like, what is that all about? So, yeah, the lack of Zilla is another reason why I don't give it a too high of a rating. And like I said, I understand why there wasn't. I just wish there was more, as I'm sure most of you do. Yeah, I can't wait to see Godzilla King of the Monsters. That'll be coming out in a couple weeks here now. I know I'm really late on reviewing this, but I want to see this universe thrive and do as well as the MCU. Probably won't do as well. Probably won't last as long as the MCU, but I would like to see at least 6 or 7 movies in this universe. I know they got King Kong versus Zilla coming up. I'll watch that and review it. I got Kong Skull Island, which I guess this Kong will be fighting this Zilla in the next year or so. So I'll review Kong Skull Island. I'll try and review this whole universe as it unfolds, and I'll try and get some more of my MCU done. Probably get back into reviewing some comic books. I don't know if I'll review the same ones I was reviewing, but I'll figure out as she goes. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought of Godzilla 2014 in the comments below, and have a good one, guys. Take her easy.